right. Hello, football fans. Welcome back to week 10 of the 2023 season for the Scuffed Football Podcast. This is Noah. I'm Ted. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. To let you all behind the curtain, most weeks I give Noah some prep as to what ends up on my show notes, and today I told him we're doing none. The game plan here is I'm just going to drop some insane takes based on games we saw this weekend, and we're going to get Noah's unfiltered reaction before I give my input. I'm really hyped for this episode. We're going to start it off early. Titans Steelers from Thursday night. The insane take we're going to start with here. Kenny Pickett has a higher ceiling with Pittsburgh than Will Levis does with Tennessee. I want to explain that again. Not higher ceiling as a quarterback, right? But higher ceiling with his team than Levis does with Tennessee.
All right. Well, we know how I feel about Will Levis, you know?
Yeah.
That's my boy. And, you know, Kenny Pickett's your boy. I will say, I think you could be right. I believe that, you know, straight up Will Levis is a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett, and he will be for the foreseeable future. But I think the offensive talent that Kenny Pickett has at his disposal is a lot better. And that's I know Titans still have Nuke and, you know, Derrick Henry, and, you know, it's just, but that's pretty much it. And that's all they have. And I mean, Steelers, they have a decent offense. If they had a better offensive play caller, I think we would be seeing a different Steelers team. So I will agree to some extent that for the team itself, they have a higher ceiling, but I still believe firmly, and I will never, ever go back from this, Will Levis is that dude for the Titans, and let's go.
I don't think I've personally seen enough of Will Levis to say he's better or worse than anybody else in the league, right? A game and a half is not enough to tell me, right? Like, by all means, I don't want to make this disparaging against Will Levis. But I think that Pittsburgh is, like, has the pieces where they could compete like next season. Their defense is really good. I think they've got a solid receiving core. Like you mentioned, their play calling sucks. They are 32nd in every single offensive category. They're fucking terrible. Matt Canada needs to be exiled. Like, forget just fired. He needs to be exiled. All right. I think that Tennessee is not in a place where they can look at next season and be like, yeah, Super Bowl hopes with Will Levis. And I say that partially because, like, they're missing some offensive pieces. They feel like, similarly to Pittsburgh, they have trouble play calling. Like, how do you have Derrick Henry, who is literally a freight train, and not use him enough, right? And I don't think that their defense is set up to compete where they could even tell themselves we're definitely better than the Jags next year with just one move, right? I think that if they stay with their teams, I think Pickett and the Steelers have a higher ceiling than Levis and Tennessee. Not to say that one quarterback is better, but I think as their situation stands, I think Pickett has a higher ceiling. So that one was a little goofy, just to break you in, because I know exactly what you were going to tell me with Levis and Pickett. So, into some real games. I know the one that everybody wants to talk about, all right? I have two takes from this game, okay? Vikings and the Falcons, right? Josh Dobbs is king of the world. Just sight unseen, it's done. The real big take here, the real big take. Josh Dobbs is going to make Minnesota compete this season.
I don't know about that one. I will say I agree. You know, Josh Dobbs coming into that system, no snaps, doesn't know the people he's playing with. Like, I agree. He led that team. He was great. Again, they competed, which is what we saw when he was in Arizona. That, you know, they were in the games. This is what we expected, though, right? We expected them to stay competitive in games. I still don't believe that's your franchise quarterback. I see them being competitive. I don't see them making the playoffs, but I see them being competitive in almost every game that they have.
Look, first, I want to say on the front end that there was a report that you sent me, Noah, that like the Vikings intend to re-sign Kirk Cousins next year. So shout out my guy. Thank God. Love Kirk Cousins. All right. But for this season, right? The idea that Josh Dobbs can be traded to you 2.5 days beforehand. He's probably bumming it on somebody's couch, okay? He doesn't know the names of his teammates. He calls a play in the huddle, and then the offensive coordinator is telling him what that play call he just made is before he takes the snap, and he won them a game. Dude, Josh Dobbs is on his fucking king shit. Like, the NFC, the wild card spots are so achievable. The Vikings schedule is relatively easy. Like, I genuinely see that, like, if Dobbs can keep healthy and the Vikings don't have to go to another quarterback by the end of this year, right? Like, I genuinely see the Vikings winning a game in the wild card round. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but like, I'm saying they make it to the divisional round of the playoffs. I can feel like almost confident in that take.
I'd like to see it happen, but I'm not on the same confident level as you are. But I would love to see it happen. It would be a very much Cinderella story, but I'm not on that level just yet.
You know how, like, look, I recognize that, like, for them to do it, it would take them beating the Eagles in the playoffs, okay? But, like, do you know how fucking cool it would be Josh Dobbs walking into Minnesota, be like, hey, yo, Kirk, I know you got hurt. Here's your fucking ring anyway, brother. Take it over again next year. That'd be the coolest fucking thing in the world. As an Eagles fan, you'd have to beat the Eagles to do it, and I still think it would be cool for the Vikings, man. Like, Josh Dobbs, I truly believe that he can walk in and win a wild card round of the playoffs. Other big story from this weekend, Texans and Bucks. Okay, one take here is kind of stupid, so I'm going to start with that one. If the NFL said you couldn't sign a designated kicker, your kicker needed to play a position, the NFL would be better football games. Like, imagine no Justin Tucker, no Adam Vinatieri. You're like, hey, you need to pick a random guy who also plays linebacker for you to kick the football every week. Dude, the NFL would be so much better.
I would like to see that. That'd be funny, you know?
The big take here, CJ Stroud is already a top 10 quarterback.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I know. I know he's... I see most likely, I think right now he is going to win Rookie of the Year. I mean, again, dude, you don't see... Like, he's looked so comfortable. He's looked like a superstar. He knows he's their franchise guy. He's got that confidence, that swagger. I mean, he used 5 touchdowns and a rookie, you know, almost throwing for 500 yards is just absolutely crazy. That's like actual Madden numbers. Like, if I hopped on Madden, I could do that. But, like, that's incredible to me. So, 100%. He's already a top 10 quarterback.
The crazy part for me is that, like, I'm watching him hit routes that first off don't happen in college, right? Like, I think it was his second touchdown was an out route to his tight end, and like, he hit him on timing. He stood in the pocket, about to get hit, delivered the football before his receiver turned his head and put it in a really good spot. That doesn't flatly does not happen in college, right? That's a very difficult thing to teach, that it takes several good quarterbacks years to master. And he's hitting it casually as his second touchdown of the day, putting up almost 40 points on the board. Like, there are very few quarterbacks that I think have the kind of day, even the potential to have that kind of day that CJ Stroud had on Sunday. It's hard for me to genuinely say definitively he's the 9th best quarterback in the league or whatever, right? But like, I look at guys like that have been starting in the league for a while that I can be like, yeah, they aren't making those throws. CJ Stroud looks better, right? The potential for CJ Stroud, I mean, I think he's like of that next generation of quarterbacks, like him, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, that we're going to see for a really long time. He's going to be around forever if he can continue doing what he did on Sunday. Absolutely crazy good game.
Very much agreed.
Next set of takes. Eagles, Cowboys. I don't think this one's a really big leap necessarily. But Cowboys cannot perform in crunch time. Won't win a playoff game.
Oh, I don't know. Look. As much as I hate Dallas, and you've known it, I make my hatred for Dallas, you know, very well known. I remember I texted you and I said, I'm so happy that this is actually a legit game, because time and time again, we've seen, you know, Cowboys, you know, come up to the game and then they just don't play. I was very thrilled to see them actually put up a fight. Again, it was probably, we could be seeing this potentially, you know, come, you know, divisional come conference, like, we could see this again. They were so close, man. I agree. I think penalties killed them a little bit, but I think they're able to win one playoff game, and that's it. I think against the better teams, they're kind of like the Dolphins. They can't really play as well. They haven't really, I think they have the potential to beat up on those weaker teams, but then come the better teams, some flaws, some other things that, they aren't as good at is going to definitely come to light. So that's my take on those.
For me, I watched their defense play a really good game until they needed stops. When it was, that's a good stop, great, I'm happy you got it, right? When it was, we need a stop, they didn't get it. When their offense, their last drive was 70 yards in about a minute and 10 seconds, okay? It was not... They marched the field at the end of that game, but then their last play call put them down at the 1 with no time remaining. There were opportunities for them to win that game, and not even on that final drive. Even their drive before, they were still within a touchdown's reach. They had the ball in control of the clock, right? They could not put it together when it mattered. They played a fine game. Their offense was working. Their defense was working until you added the word need into the math. When it was important, they could not do it. And for that reason, I find it hard to believe that they will get into a playoff scenario against a difficult opponent and win a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they are definitely going to struggle, but I think they'll win at least one just because it's going to be a weaker team they start against.
If they make the wild card, right, at this rate that we're halfway through the season and they're 3 games back of the East, right? Eagles look pretty good. So I find it hard to believe that they will overtake the East short of catastrophe in Philadelphia, right? So if you end up playing a team in the first round like San Francisco or who's the division leader in the South, even if the Bucs win their division, right? The Bucs are playing good football. I find it really hard to believe that when it matters, that's a drive that they need or a stop that they need, that the Cowboys can come through and do it. It's tough for me to buy into that. Alternatively, my second take from this game, the Eagles now have to be separated themselves as the Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we always I just don't want to jinx them, I feel like they are getting back to that form that we saw last year, which is, where they made the Super Bowl. I think, the other Super Bowl favorites that we had at the beginning of the season definitely aren't the same team that we thought they would be. Chiefs have struggled, Niners have struggled, Bills have struggled, even the Bengals have struggled. We've seen these better teams struggling, and even though we've said some weeks, we have seen the Eagles struggle, they still find out to get gritty wins. And then this one, there was a statement win. It was one of their strength tests, like we talked about last year, especially against a better defense than the Cowboys. So I will say I think they have separated themselves a little bit. I don't want to just completely just be they're downright favorites. You can never count goddamn Chiefs out. But I will say there is separation, and I'm rooting for them. But Bills are still there, so
Hey, look. For me, man, much like you, I don't want to jinx it, right? But I will say that much like you said, a lot of those teams that we considered to be really strong teams, even 3 weeks ago, look a whole lot worse than they do, or than we had them on paper, right? I think the Eagles are beating pretty decent teams. A lot of their teams a lot of their wins are against pretty good teams. They have a lot of separation between them and everybody else. I think they're at 8-1, or they're at 8-1 now. The Chiefs are at 7-2, and then there's a full game everybody else, right? And we've argued multiple times on this podcast that the Chiefs win by a 1-score game and it's refs or whatever. That there's several of those 1-score games they probably could have or should have lost. I think that there is a lot more confidence in the Eagles every week to win against their opponent than there is just about anybody else in the league. And look, at the end of the day, it's football. You get one game in the playoffs. It's not like it's a series where the better team is going to come out on top. The football can bounce a different direction and change the outcome of a game. So I'm not sitting here guaranteeing an Eagles Super Bowl. But I have to imagine that, like, if you or I or most of the people listening to this are going to put their money on it, I'm going to pick that this team is probably going to win the Super Bowl. I have to imagine most of that's lying with the Eagles at this point.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
On to the Chiefs, and the Dolphins, I guess, can kind of be in that conversation. The take here, the Dolphins are outright frauds. No questions, no ifs, no maybes. Dolphins are frauds.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, again, I've seen so many stats where, they'll beat up on teams and then against winning teams, they're literally winless. So, like, what they're doing their job. Isn't the point, to beat up on those lower teams? Like, that's what you're supposed to do. But, if they were for real, they'd be winning these games. And being down 21-0 in the first half is just, I mean, granted, they came back 14-21, but, like, still, like, it's just, and then, yeah, they are frauds. I will agree with that.
Matt, 21 point, right? Like you said, they were down 21-0 at half. Their defense holds the Chiefs to 0 points and a half, which I can't tell you the last time that happened. The Chiefs for years now, they have scored at will. You hold them to 0 points in the entire second half, which means they had 3 different attempts to get a game-winning drive or a game-tying drive, which included 2 turnovers and a 3-and-out. That's embarrassing, man. Like, that's, if you can't put it away with an offense like that, literally all you need to do to remain in that game is score 1 touchdown in 3 drives. You get a 3-and-out and 2 turnovers. That's fraudulent. Playing against somebody decent, right? Again, we're down on the Chiefs. Playing against somebody decent and you still can't get it done. There's no confidence left in the Dolphins. I don't even want to talk them up as being a good offense at this point. Like, I just want to call them fraudulent and move on with my day.
Well, I'm on board because, no bias, but I'm on board.
No bias, he says. All right. I want to get to Seattle and the Ravens. I'm pretty sure I said as we were making picks last week that this was going to be a good game, possibly game of the week. I am embarrassed to have said that take out loud now. So the big take here, Seattle cannot compete for a Super Bowl with Geno Smith.
Yeah, as much as I, would love to see it, and, he had a great year last year, and, not to say he couldn't still turn around this season. I have to agree. Unfortunately, I do think that with Geno at the helm, probably not going to make it, especially with the other teams in the NFC. I agree.
I wanted to go into this week. Had they won their game, they'd be in control of the NFC West, right? Which I don't think anybody saw them being better than the 49ers, right? But I think that their playoff run looks a whole lot different if they finish with the second seed and home field advantage against everybody but the Eagles than it does to be a wild card team and have to play 3 road games to get there. But the Ravens are a pretty good team. I think we've acknowledged that. And the idea that it didn't look close, losing 37-3 is really rough, man. Putting up 3 points in an NFL game is abysmally bad. But also, like, a team that we knew to be solid and not being able to accomplish anything. I don't want to put the fault all on Geno Smith, but that offense doesn't look as explosive enough as they might need to keep up with other good teams in the league. And now that they're no longer in first place of the NFC West, I mean, obviously, like we said, football can bounce a different direction and the game can be up for grabs, but I find it really hard to believe that Seattle can compete as well as they may have thought they would have even a week or 2 ago.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, some, injuries here and there, but it's still like, Geno's still pretty healthy, so even with the receiving, core being depleted. But yeah, I have to agree. I don't think they'll be making any Super Bowl runs, but who knows? Cinderella runs are a thing, so
they'd have to get through Josh Dobbs. All right. This take, I don't feel. This is probably my weakest feeling take, but I still think it's a take worth making, right? The Browns and Cardinals game, the Browns defense is Super Bowl good. Maybe not the Browns. The Browns defense is Super Bowl good.
100%. And I mean, we've been saying it. We've been saying how legit the Browns defense is. We said it week 1. We've said it, time and time again. There's been a few weeks where, they can't slow somebody down. But, like, other than that, like, there's been more often than not, we've seen the Browns defense be exceptionally good. And like I agree. I think if the Browns were Super Bowl level, offensively, then yeah, they could be real scary. But just alone, I think their defense is what really keeps them in games, what wins them games. Yeah, I have to agree with that one, like, pretty easily.
I guess I feel less confident. Like, I think it was about this time last year that I said the Jets defense was Super Bowl good, right? I will still die on that hill. The Jets defense was really good last year. They were genuinely a quarterback away, and Mike White put them close enough where we could start to buy into it, okay? Like, that's how close they fucking were. I feel less confident in this take this year. Saying it after this game feels really fucked up in the idea that they were playing against the Cardinals, who had just lost the quarterback who'd been keeping them in games. I get it. The thing was with the Jets last year, right? They were getting sacks, they were getting takeaways, there was not really any high score performances against them, right? The Browns have kind of let some teams in there, but the defense has been good enough to hold them into winning games. I'm not seeing an abundant number of turnovers. I'm not seeing a crazy amount of sacks. Like, they still have the player. The defensive line, I will argue, is one of the best defensive lines in football. Like, I don't care what the numbers say. Myles Garrett's fucking terrifying. But again, I feel less confident to say it this week as one of my takes from this list because they played against the Cardinals, who have a new starting quarterback who's a rookie that I still can't name even after watching most of that game.
Something Tune. That's all I know.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess I feel less confident to say it now versus to say it last week or next week, right? But I still think that if they had a functional offense, the Browns, like, their defense is Super Bowl good.
Agreed.
All right. Next two games, I've got two takes apiece. Giants and Raiders. I genuinely didn't think I was going to have anything to say about this game at all, but holy shit. The money that the Giants paid Daniel Jones is worth it. I hate that sentence just came out of my mouth. But that's my big take. The Daniel Jones money was worth it.
Oh, God. No, I need an explanation for that one.
All right. We watched Tyrod Taylor come in last week and have an okay game. We also have never really watched Tyrod Taylor get extended amount of time, stay healthy. He's had his issues that, like, I understand why he's a backup quarterback and not a starter. I don't want to disparage Tyrod Taylor, but it's not a guy that you can rely on for 17 games. Whatever fucking bum they put in behind Tyrod Taylor made that offense look worse than it already was bad. I can sit here and I can acknowledge that most of their offensive pieces are not good, right? Like, okay, Saquon Barkley's good, right? But again, you have health questions. He's also not super involved in the passing game, so whatever quarterback you have doesn't really matter, right? I recognize that Darren Waller is there. He's a pretty good tight end, right? But, like, there's no fucking receiving core in
He's also on IR, so I mean,
right. Even when he was healthy, though, like, their receiving core still sucks. It's fucking bad. Okay. With Daniel Jones there, the Giants looked bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that Daniel Jones is a really great quarterback, okay? But they looked so much worse. So much worse this week. I hate watching a Giants game when I'm actively rooting against them because they're in my division and saying, boy, I wish they had their starting quarterback so I didn't have to watch this fucking filth. Like, they paid Daniel Jones, and I thought they were fucking insane. All right, I just straight up, I thought that's a dumb amount of money to offer that guy. But they look so much better with Daniel Jones to still look bad because this was a mile and a half below bad. This was fucking awful.
Yeah, I didn't watch any part of this game because I simply could not care less. But I mean, I still, even to this day, I'll still be like, that was a lot of money for Daniel Jones. I think they should just try to upgrade in the draft. But yeah, like, they are just, the Giants in general are just awful. So, there's like, I can't even watch them anymore, man. I can't.
They were almost watchable with Daniel Jones. Like, you knew they were going to lose, but at least it was football. And now I can't even call this a fucking sport, dude. This was slaughter. This was so bad. My other take from this game, the Raiders with a functional coach can be competitive now. Not good. They can be the 1-7 Cardinals now, where they're staying in every game. Okay? Like that's the take I'm going for here. That the Raiders, without fucking Josh McDaniel, can be competitive in football games now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I was pretty shocked when they put 30. Granted, it was still the Giants, but yeah, I was pretty surprised to hop on and see that they were actually playing, pretty well. I mean, we saw that stat where last week Devontae Adams had one reception for what was it, like 11 yards?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, it was a wild stat. But I mean, he was much more involved. They were like hunting for him, like they had their offensive pieces working. Yeah, agreed. I think it was a right call to move on. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. I mean, right now they're 4-5, and that was even with, their terrible play calling. Like, just imagine if they had this coach like at the start of the season. Who knows? Like, they might have not even just been 1-7 like the Cardinals. They could have been like I don't know. They could have won at least 2 more games, I feel like. So I'm actually pretty happy that they're starting to get some stuff going.
The wild part for me is like to break down Josh McDaniels a little further, right? He was so good as an offensive coordinator in New England. Right, I never know how much credit to attribute to what coach, and like how much credit was Josh McDaniels versus Brady versus Belichick, whatever. Right, like I'm not here to be the guy that tells you who has ownership to what pieces of success. Right, but I also recognize that like there was a lot of really good offense under Josh McDaniels in New England. I don't know why he cannot be a head coach somewhere and just completely fuck up his team like every single time he tries. I don't understand it. And the crazy thing is how much more put together the Raiders looked with half a week under a different coach rather than trying to trot out Josh McDaniels again and let whatever quarterback he decides is the best one this week play quarterback for him. I don't understand it. It does not logically make sense in my head.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's silly. I left this one for last, Noah, because I don't think you're going to be super happy with this one. But of course, we're going to talk Bengals-Bills.
All right.
Okay. The first take, I'm sorry for this one in advance. I promise it's not personal. First take is that the Bills are going to disappoint in the playoffs.
God, what do you mean in the playoffs, man? They're disappointing right now. It's hurting. No, I 100% agree. As much as it pains me, it's just, oh, God. I don't know what's going on. I mean, that first drive for both teams, I remember I messaged you. I was like, okay, this could be a really good game. And, yeah, I stopped watching after halftime. And, like, I mean, this is my team. Like, I've always watched their games, but this game, I was like, whatever. Like, I was just so over it. I mean, I was happy that they put up a little bit more points, but it's just they're so. I don't know. I don't know what we need. I don't know how I would fix it. I think Sean McDermott is showing his ceiling, and I almost feel like we need to move on from him. Like, granted, I know he's done so much. I know he's a good coach. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm kind of with you in the I don't know what the problem is, right? Like, I can't look at them and say, okay, the issue is the turnovers, take care of the ball. I can't say the issue is the defense is bad or that the offense is underperforming, right? It's simple inconsistency. For the first, are they still leading the league in points per game? If not, they're close, because I know they were winning it like through 6 weeks. Even with the Dolphins putting up a 70 piece, right? The Bills were still outscoring them on the season, right? Like, the Bills offense has the ability to be super explosive against anybody. Sometimes they do it, and sometimes they just fucking don't. And I have no tangible reason as to why. I guess this year more than others, right, is that, like, I could look, if I had $1 for every time I said it last year, I probably could have gambled on them enough to lose and feel sad about, right? Where I said, if the Bills got a best of 3 series against anybody in the league in the playoffs, they won all of them. There was nobody that was going to beat them out of a 3-game sample. It wasn't going to happen. And this year, even with the same talented roster, I don't feel confident in that. I can't trust them to go into Kansas City and keep it within the football bouncing the right way. I can't expect them to do the same in Miami, in Cincinnati, against the Eagles, against the Cowboys, against the Niners. Like, I feel like the Bills have dropped off a tier, and I don't have any reason as to why, but I feel like there's no faith in them to keep competitive.
Yeah, again, as much as it pains me, I have to say I agree. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay.
Pretty rough.
My last take here is kind of egregious. This is the reaction I'm the most scared of.
Oh,
The Bengals are the favorites in the AFC.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah, 100% no. But not for the reason. I don't think it's the Chiefs. I don't think it's the Bengals. I don't think it's the Bills. I think it's the dark horse Ravens, dude.
I'm so happy you're on that train.
They are the most consistent right now. They are the most potent offense right now. And even though, you see Lamar not having these massive numbers, he's not rushing for touchdowns, he's not throwing for 400 yards, like, they are still slaughtering opponents consistently. So, I mean, we've seen, again, the Bengals have struggled, Bills have struggled, Chiefs have struggled. I think we've only seen like one game where the Ravens struggled, and it was against the Browns. And again, like, the Browns have that Super Bowl defense, and I'm not saying, they can't, perform, but they still struggled. So I think it's actually the Ravens.
Okay. Of all of the places I expected you to send that take, I'm so happy that's the reason or the direction you went. I have a lot of faith in the Ravens. I've said it here. I think I said at the beginning that they were a sneaky team to win the AFC. That I had faith in them to win their division. The only reason that I make this take that the Bengals are the AFC favorite, several years in a row now, they've gotten to slow starts, and then all of a sudden their offense just clicks, turns it on. I've now watched them beat a pretty good defense in the Bills. They're on a pretty decent streak. Joe Burrow looks back to form. Their offense is clicking again. And with the last 2 years as history, my only evidence is that is going to continue to improve by the end of the season. The thing that's been their kryptonite for several years now has been the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs don't look good. As much as I believe that the Ravens are consistently the best team, much like you said, I don't have the evidence that the Ravens perform at the end of the season. I do have the evidence that the Bengals continue to get better and better as the year goes on. I don't know genuinely who I would pick in the AFC. It would definitely be the Bengals or the Ravens, and I think the intelligent place to put your money is the Ravens, to be honest. But man, it's hard to root against the Bills or against the Bengals watching them play this way. It's really tough. Really, really tough.
I do just want to point out, though, Jamar Chase is kind of fucked up right now with his back.
Yeah.
So something to watch out for.
Sure. Bengals still look good, though. Something's clicking. It's working. All right. I think that brings us into fantasy. I know that we're getting closer to playoff time. If leagues have trade deadlines, I feel like we're approaching it. What are you seeing? What are you looking? Any pickups that you're eyeing up? Any positions that you're worried about?
I just want to say stay away from Houston Texans running backs by all means. I had faith this week and I lost because of it. So stay away. I think again, if you can trade for a Houston Texans receiver, Tank Dell, anyone like that, like I would 100% be trading for them, just because, again, I think we're just seeing, again, I don't know how many times we're going to see a 470-yard performance and 5 touchdowns from CJ Stroud, but I think we can see maybe 300, 3 touchdowns, like, I think it's going to be more come back to earth, not out of this earth. But I mean, CJ Stroud's still having himself a day, and the Texans weren't expected to be good, so be trading for some teams that are shocking expectations.
If you were lucky enough to draft Nico Collins at the beginning of this year, or Tank Dell, for all intent, way to hit the lottery. Congratulations. Like, I hope your league championship has a nice big fancy belt for you. My thing is that I think I think it's about this point in time during the season that I start looking for, like, if I end up in the playoffs for my fantasy league, who gets the easy schedule weeks 15, 16, 17, right? You want teams that are in that, like, B tier, right? The Bengals are in a position in their division where they're going to be competing, trying to win games. So you know that the Bengals offense is going to be starting, right? So guys like that, if they get an easy schedule in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and you know they're going to be competing based on their team's record, they're a good pickup. If you can get them at the waiver wire, get guys on trades so teams that maybe aren't doing so well, those are really good places to start looking ahead in the schedule. The other thing is quarterbacks, man. I feel like the last couple of weeks we've watched guys drop like flies. I know I mentioned Daniel Jones. He's a decent fantasy quarterback just because he can run. Like, if you're trying to replace him, man, get somebody that's past their bye week and is going to feel stable. You are confident they're going to play. I'm not even telling you to take a flyer on Dobbs or Pickett or Levis, right? Like, be intelligent, right? But like, start looking past the bye week where you can stop worrying about him now, and you know you're going to get your guy all season long.
Well, agreed.
All right, that brings us to gambling. I've been dreading this. Noah, you had a good week. You went 9-5. I don't want to talk about my week. I went 4-10. I'm below 500, dude. I was so up all season long, and just 2 really shit weeks, dude. I am floundering. Noah's 59, 46-2, and he's got me by 8 games, 51, 54-2. I fucking hate it here. I definitely didn't lose a whole lot of money this weekend. Don't ask questions. For this week, lines are provided by FanDuel as of Tuesday. They're subject to change. Gamble responsibly. Remember, we're not providing advice. Please don't take mine. We're solely providing our picks. If you're a loved one has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Carolina, Chicago. Bears are 3.5 favorites at home.
I'm not watching this game, but Bears.
I'm going to fade you. They get plus points. I think Adam Thielen is due for a big week. I'll take Carolina. I got Indy and New England. Indy is a 1.5 favorite on the road.
Yeah, I'll take Indy on that one, 100%.
I'm with you. No faith in Mac Jones whatsoever. San Francisco, Jacksonville. Should be a pretty decent game, I hope. San Francisco's a 3-point favorite on the road.
Hell no, man. The struggles and Jags coming off a bye. Jacksonville.
I'm with you. I was kind of assuming that you were just going to take San Francisco, but like I trust Dougie P off the bye. I'm going to take Jacksonville and the 3 points. Oh, the disrespect. New Orleans at Minnesota. New Orleans is a 2.5 point favorite on the road. Absolutely fucking not, Josh Dobbs. All hail. Absolutely fucking not. I'm riding Minnesota, dude.
Yeah, I agree. I think Vikings win this, but just to fade you, I'll go Saints on this one.
All right. I mean, fading me has worked because you beat me by 5 fucking games this week. So, all right. I got Tennessee, Tampa Bay. Bucks are 1.5 favorites at home.
I feel like Bucks haven't been too hot, but I'm feeling a bounce back week. Feeling Bucks on this one.
All right. I'll take Tennessee. I'll buy into Will Levis, and 1.5 is close enough that it's basically a toss-up, so I'm all right with that. Cleveland at Baltimore. The Ravens are 6-point favorites at home. It's only tough because Cleveland's defense is so good.
And we have seen the Ravens already struggling.
Yeah. I'm going to take Baltimore. It's tough to beat a team twice. I don't like that pick, but I'm going to take Baltimore.
Oh, God, I know I was just raving about them, but no, I'm going to go Browns again just to fade you.
All right. I got Houston, Cincinnati. Bengals are 6.5 favorites at home. Ugh, that's tough. That's a good line. I think I'm going to take Houston just because 6.5 is big. I think if this was just a flat 6, I think I'd shit myself and not pick. 6.5 just feels this much too big. I think Houston can keep it close.
Yeah. I'll go Bengals on this one, just cause.
All right. I got Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Steelers are 3-point favorites at home.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. Just, even though Green Bay surprised us this week, beating the Rams, even though we both called Rams. Yeah, Pittsburgh, 100%.
I'm with that. Same. Kenny Pickett walking in and winning last week was not necessarily something that I was like super confident in. I know I picked it, but I still didn't like it. In fact, when I put money on it, it was Tennessee. Don't ask questions. But yeah, I think Pickett can repeat, and 3 points at home is not too tough. I got Atlanta, Arizona. The Falcons are 1.5 favorites on the road. For me, 1.5 is not nearly big enough. Arizona was barely a football team this past week. I'm taking the Falcons.
Well, just a reminder, Kyler Murray is starting. That being said, he's still coming off an injury. Yeah, I got to go Falcons.
I got Detroit and the Chargers. The Lions are 2.5 favorites on the road. I don't know. I feel like our conversations about Detroit have kind of fallen off. I think the Chargers looked good this past week, so I think it'd be easy to put your money on the Chargers just based on recent performance. But I still think Detroit's a better team. I think they're staying under the radar. I'm okay with Detroit at 2.5.
Yeah, I have to agree. That being said, I'm expecting an offensive bounce back. So I think Chargers on this one.
Okay. Fuck this spread before I even get to it. I got the Giants at the Cowboys. Cowboys are 16.5 favorites. The problem is that my gut reaction is to go with Dallas. 16.5 isn't big enough. But it's so fucking hard. You have to win by 3 scores to cover this spread. That's so fucking tough. Oh God. If I were to put money on this, I'm buying Dallas down to 12, right? I'm going to take the lower spread for the purposes of this, where we're picking at 16.5. I don't like it, but I'm taking Dallas. I fucking hate it. 16.5 is an insane. That's a college football spread when fucking Alabama plays Tulane. Okay. Like this is not an NFL spread. This is a professional football team.
That's my fantasy spread this week. Yeah, no, I think my gut reaction is also take Dallas. So I'm going to, again, I don't know who the hell they're going to put in at fucking QB. So yeah. Dallas I'm going with.
All right. Games start to get shitty here. We got Washington, Seattle. Seahawks are 6-point favorites at home.
I feel like that's a little too big. Just a little bit, just enough to make me go Commanders on this one.
Okay. I'm going to take Seattle. I know that I'm a little bit down on Seattle, but I feel like they're kind of in the same boat as the Dolphins, where they're definitely beating the teams who are worse than them. So I think I can feel okay about Seattle winning by 6 at least. Sunday night's game. I don't know who the fuck scheduled this, but fire them immediately. I have the Jets at the Raiders. The Jets are 1.5 favorites on the road.
I think Raiders looked good, so I'm gonna go Raiders. Yeah, whoever decided to put the Jets on for this many primetime games needs to be fired.
I mean, I get Aaron Rodgers, but for the love of God, please flex it, because nobody wants to see the Raiders either. I'm going to take the Jets specifically just to fade you. I don't know that either one of these teams is good enough to win. It's just who loses less, right? I think that's what this game comes down to. And then a shitty Monday night game to follow. Denver at Buffalo. Bills are 7.5 favorites at home. I know you're going to watch.
Only one half of them is shitty. Okay?
It's going to be a shitty football game. It's not shitty teams. It's a shitty football game. And I don't even think you can argue that.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I still got to go Bills Mafia. I think we have a bounce back week against the terrible Broncos, but yeah.
I'm going to take Denver. And I know it's dumb. And I know Buffalo's going to cover this one and make me very mad because I just said that Denver was shit. All right. But if I'm going to have to watch this game and I have like things riding on the Bills, right? It's the only game on Monday night. So if I put money to ride on the Bills and it stays like a close game, I'm going to be pissed off twice. So in order to emotionally hedge, I'm taking Denver.
All right.
I hate my own logic there, but that's what's happening. I need to make some games up somewhere, dude. I don't like being below 500. All right.
Fair enough.
This has been a fun one. I enjoyed this. I hope that this week produces a whole lot less insane takes that I will hate that I put out on the internet. But I think this was a fun one. So appreciate you guys watching. We will catch you here next week.